Welcome everyone back to Weekly Weather Updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from some of the data from theweatheriscool.com, have a look at the zone mean winds, have a look at what is going on in the stratosphere all the way through the atmosphere, looking why it could be the end of winter really. We might not be seeing any proper wintry weather over the next few weeks. We'll see why that is pretty likely solution. We'll also have a look at the GFS and the GFS Ensembles, and we'll finish up having a look at the UKMO Office 5-day precipitation and temperature. So we do have some very unsettled weather coming up over the next few days. We do have a rain warning in force for this weekend down in parts of South Wales, so we'll have a look at that as well. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, much do like and subscribe, and remember to follow me as well, the links in the description. So if we do have a look at the latest from the zonal mean winds, you can see the chart here. Now, I'll briefly explain what each of these lines are showing. I mean, I've gone through this before, but I haven't done it for a few weeks, so some of you may not have seen this. So, basically, the zonal mean winds at 10 HPA. So, up in the stratosphere, over the North Pole, the winds going around high above our heads, and it dictates what happens all the way down through the troposphere as well. So in the stratosphere, we do have generally a westerly flow in the winter because we've got cold core with more warmer air in and around that towards the mid-tropics, and that temperature and pressure contrast causes a westerly flow because of the rotation of Earth, complex physics and stuff like that, that it would take me too long really to explain. But we do have a generally westerly flow because we have colder air over the pole and warmer air towards the mid-tropics. Now you can see this yellow area, this yellow broad area, is sort of the solutions we've had over the last X many years that we've had within sort of the satellite era of where the zonal mean winds have been. And through the summer and most of the autumn really, it's pretty consistent. You can see this sort of spread is very tight together. But as we get to around December, you can see the spread increases significantly, and you can see there is a spread of around 80 meters per second, if not more than that, maybe even towards 100 meters per second at certain points, especially through January and February. Now, the top of it will be massive westerly winds, strong polar vortex, likely westerly flow towards the surface. The ones around 0 or below that, those are likely to be sudden stratospheric warmings, easterly winds in the stratosphere, and likely to bring much colder weather to the UK. Now, if we do first have a look at the red dotted line, that is what happened last year. See the reanalysis of 2020-21 winter, and you can see it was broadly around average for most of the autumn all the way to December, so maybe even slightly above, and it was around or slightly above average actually through most of the end of February all the way through the spring as well. But we had a sudden stratospheric warming through early January, and that basically put the stratospheric winds much weaker than average, getting down to 0, so negative territory, easterly winds at points, throughout most of January. And that caused us having cold, bitterly cold weather towards the end of January, start of February. We also saw some very cold spells in April, start of April, end of March, with some very cold northerly shots through spring, and spring came out really quite cold in the end. A lot of frosts and even quite a bit of snowfall for some. But it was all because of the sudden stratospheric warming. Now, if we had this sort of stratosphere set up and we had a lot of climate drivers going with us, which we didn't actually have last winter, we didn't have as many climate drivers in terms of the ENSO region, the QBO, we didn't have these climate drivers with us. If we did, last winter could have been really quite cold, but instead it was around slightly above average in the end with a colder January, but nothing too exceptional really. But if we look at this blue line above that, that is this year, and you can see pretty much the opposite. It's been around or slightly above average all the way through the autumn into early winter, and it's continued well above average through December and now January, and even now through the start of February. These green lines here at the end of it is the GFS Ensembles, so the next 14 days. Beyond that is the CFS runs, which are uncertain, but they are longer term, and they give us good hints. So you can see they are bias corrected because sometimes they do favour weaker than average, and you can see it is well above average, even going to potentially towards record strengths over the next couple of weeks. And this is why we have been seeing this westerly flow over the last few weeks. Now, this wasn't as prominent through December. You can see those stratospheric winds were not quite as strong, and that's what allowed us to see a bit of blocking through November and December, and a bit of cold weather, and we had cold potential around Christmas. Never quite came off, and some would attribute that to the stronger than average stratospheric winds. But because these are so strong, it is going through the atmosphere, causing very mild westerly flow, and you can see there is no sign of it going to around average or even below average for the next couple of weeks, all the way probably until the start of March. So that's why I'm saying it's likely that we don't see anything major over the next few weeks. It's possible we could see a brief break in this westerly flow if we do see the right sort of atmospheric scenarios, because of course there are other things that do play into it. But whenever we have a stratosphere this strong, it's unlikely we will see any major blocking or any sustained cold weather other than a couple days of northerly or northwesterly winds if we see a little bit of application in a strong jet stream. And of course, by the time it returns to around average or to around zero, we're into April, May time, where if it starts blocking over the top of us or to our east, we'd start to pull in more milder, warmer air in off the continent. So, not looking great. And we'd hoped that we would see a break in this throughout the last few weeks and the last month or two. There were hints at times, especially on the GFS runs, but it never quite came off. And that is why it's been so mild and westerly. Now, if we do have a look at this in a sort of a different view, this is a slice through the atmosphere. Have a look at the different pressure levels, so different heights in the atmosphere, all the way from 1 HPA, really high up in the atmosphere, through the stratosphere, 10 HPA, all the way down to the surface. And these oranges and pinks, are showing strong westerly flows. Blues and purple colours and other pink colours are showing easterly winds. Now you can see the sort of surface, we haven't got massive strong westerly winds. If we did have those sort of westerly winds, we would be seeing massive stormy weather. We're not quite seeing it that extent, but it is generally westerly. You can see there is very little going towards those blues, towards the surface, meaning jet stream coming in from the west, mild Atlantic flow. Towards the top of the atmosphere, though, you can see very, very strong. And if we look over to the right chart, this is the anomalies. So anything red, orange and above, that is above average westerly winds. Anything below in the blues, that is below average. So weaker than average westerly winds or even perhaps easterly winds. And you can see pretty much throughout the whole atmosphere, it is pretty much red, especially higher up in the atmosphere. Now, we haven't got a sort of a full coupling of the stratosphere and the troposphere. If we did, we would see these reds go all the way through the atmosphere. We're not quite seeing that. If we did, we would go very, very stormy indeed. Big storms pushing in from the west, very strong jet streams, cyclogenesis taking place. But we're not quite seeing that. So that is why it is not massively stormy at the moment, but it is very unsettled because we still have slightly above average westerly winds, and these winds at the top of the atmosphere are stopping any blocking taking place. If we do see empty application, like we've seen over the last couple of days, heading into today, we do have quite cold air mass from a bit of amplification. It's just getting flattened by the strong jet stream. So these charts are showing why we're seeing this sort of westerly flow, because pretty much throughout the whole atmosphere it's in a westerly regime, and if we didn't have this much of a westerly regime, other climate drivers could try and shift it out of the way, try to build in some blocking. But whenever we do see any blocking trying to form over the last month or two, it has been flattened by westerly winds, especially throughout January and so far in February. Now, if we look towards the surface, we have a look at the AO and the NAO, which I've explained before, but are basically an index showing the strength of the zonal winds. A positive AO is showing more higher than average low pressure, high pressure contrast between the Arctic and the mid-latitudes, so more of a westerly flow, similar to the polar vortex, but at the surface, the tropospheric polar vortex. And the NAO is showing the pressure contrast between the Icelandic low, the general low pressure system over Iceland, and the Azores high. Positive, showing stronger than average pressure gradient, therefore westerly winds. Negative, showing weaker than average, more likely to be distorted, amplified, or even easterly winds. Now you can see since the 1st of January, we've been pretty much, or probably since the first maybe 5th or 10th of January, really, we've been above zero. We had a brief spell of negative AO in early February, but it was really brief, so it didn't come to much, and that caused those real cold outbreaks in America. pushing cold air there. But it's not quite negative, and it didn't stay negative enough to give cold air to the UK. So you can see during the Christmas period, we did have potential. We had very negative AO, which hopefully would have delivered, but it didn't in the end. Unfortunately, we had that big backtrack. But you can see it is staying very positive, most positive it's been in quite a while, all the way back until mid-October. So that's why, as I said, no real chances for any blocking on the AO. And if we do have a look at the NAO, very similar, very, very positive over the next few weeks. Again, showing very Atlantic mobile systems coming in from the west. And again, could be stormy. But again, we'll have to see exactly how it does play out. No real signs, though, of any blocking. So hopefully these charts have showed you why we're seeing these westerly flows. Because sometimes you look at the models and you just see loads of low-pressure system forming, and you're like, why? Why can't we just see a high-pressure system form? It's because of all these upper-level things that are stopping at the surface. Because remember, where our weather takes place, where snow forms, where rain forms, where we see the clouds, where we see the 850 HPA slice in the atmosphere, it is a very small region in the grand scheme of things. There is a lot more of the atmosphere that we don't directly get the impacts from, but it impacts the troposphere, which creates our weather in the end. So this is why we've been seeing these westerly winds, and it's just unfortunate the polar vortex just hasn't been playing with us this year. It hasn't been playing ball really. It's been very strong, similar to 2019-2020, where we had again a very strong polar vortex. But so far this winter we have had very good other climate drivers. That's why we have so much hope. But it's very difficult to forecast the polar vortex. Very small things can change it. Again, if we had seen a weakening perhaps towards the start of the winter, it could have stopped this. If we did see a bit of a stratospheric warming through December, it could have distorted this a little bit, and we could have seen something colder. So it's very difficult to say why we've seen this, but this really what's happened, and I guess it's just a little bit disappointing if you're looking for any cold weather. So if we now do go through the GFS and the GFS Ensembles, I'm not really going to spend too much time on this because it hasn't really changed a lot since yesterday's video. But if we do run through, you can see again quite a big westerly flow, and you can see through Sunday we see these little low pressure system developing. A little bit of a low pressure system developing over central England. Could form a lot of rain with that, and again we have all rain warning in force, and then again loads of westerly winds, colder and milder sectors, just oscillating really, not looking particularly great. And you can just see all of those purples to our north, strong compact tropospheric polar vortex, keeping things really unsettled. And again, if we did see these lows shift a bit further southwards, we could be seeing the storm track head over the UK, but at the moment that is not looking as likely. So again, we'll have to see exactly how it does play out again, but it is looking generally westerly and unsettled. Now, if we do have a look at the GFS Ensembles, now as I'm recording this, the 6Z is just coming out. Now we have it about 11 days, and you can see there's not too much spread around, or above or below average. Just sort of a zonal sine wave, colder, milder sectors, nothing too amazing. Quite a bit of precipitation, nothing massive, as I said, with the low pressures centred further northwards. The weather fronts are not going to be as strong. We're going to have more of a high pressure influence, so the precipitation isn't going to be as heavy, but we do have some heavier precipitation, as I said, coming through on Sunday, and once again through many other days over the next week or two. So we're going to be seeing more rain, we're going to be seeing strong winds, and temperatures are going to be very much up and down over the next few weeks, regardless of where you are. So if we do finish up by having a look at the weather warnings, and then we'll have a look at the UK Met Office run. You can see there was a weather warning from midnight on Sunday all the way to 6 PM. Heavy rain on Sunday leading to disruption. 40-60 millimetres of rain during the weekend, and some spots seeing 100 millimetres. Not too unusual to see a warning in southern Wales for a rain event like this. Wouldn't expect too much significant impacts, as we haven't had too much rain recently. But of course, whenever we see 50-60 millimetres of rain fall, it can cause some disruption if we do see drains get blocked. If it overwhelms the rivers for a short period of time, we could see some disruption. So if you are in this area, do keep an eye out and do make sure you do stay safe. So if you do finally have a look at the UK Met Office run, have a look at precipitation and temperature. Now you can see today we haven't had pretty decent conditions, a few wintry showers perhaps in the north, but nothing too crazy, and then a weather front pushing in. Totally just snow over high ground over the course of this evening, but generally just rain elsewhere before big mass of rain spread through Saturday afternoon, before we see another system. That's this really heavy rain through Sunday, while we have a warning in force really pushing in, because the orographic rainfall with this relief rainfall, i.e. over the higher ground, seeing the heaviest rain, and it spreads through all areas, giving us soaking to many areas through Sunday afternoon, for eventually it does pull away through the early hours of Monday into Monday afternoon, bringing a bit of back edge rain potentially for a few areas. If we see another weather front push through on Tuesday, again more heavy rain, and again just continued bouts of heavy rain, some winteriness over the high ground, but I'm not expecting anything too major. Now, if we look at max temperatures, you can see earlier this morning it was really quite cold actually. We have cold upper conditions, clear skies, meant we saw widespread frost for many areas. Today, though, temperatures are going to rise to around 6 to 8 degrees widely in England and Wales, in Ireland, but across Scotland could be a bit colder than that. Through tonight, we could see again a patchy frost for a few areas, but cloud is building and we are seeing precipitation push in, so like to rise to give those temperatures a bit of a bump up. And you can see by Saturday afternoon, temperatures around 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees, not looking too bad at all, but we'll still probably feel a little bit chilly. But of course, that rain is pushing in, so it isn't going to feel particularly pleasant. And through Sunday, even though on the thermometer it's saying 7 to 10 degrees, it's going to feel chilly out there. It's going to feel pretty abysmal. If you have got anything planned for Sunday, do make sure you keep an eye on the radar and the forecast, as it does look like there will be pretty much rain for everyone over the course of Sunday. Of course, different timings depending on where you are, but it does look like there will be a lot of cloud and quite a lot of on and off rain, and some areas could see an absolute soaking, especially in Wales and the southwest. Beyond that, though, Monday, temperatures once again 6 to 8 degrees, but chilly, but nothing too crazy. Tuesday could see another frost, but I'm not expecting anything too major. 8 to 10 degrees on Tuesday, for again another mild sector by Wednesday. So you can see the oscillating up and down temperatures, and yeah, looking decent for a couple of days, but a lot of the time we're going to be seeing some rain push in. All areas are going to be seeing the rain over the next 5 days, so do make sure you do plan accordingly to the heavy rain pushing through. So yeah, not looking great if you're looking for any wintry weather. It's looking pretty much quite likely now that it's pretty much the end of any proper wintry weather in meteorological winter, i.e. end of February. We still could see something in March, April time as the stratospheric winds start to reduce, and it's highly probable we do see a big northerly or easterly bout in mid-March as the stratospheric winds cool down and we see other climate drivers take over. It's very possible, but at this stage it does look like we most likely will not see anything major for the end of meteorological winter, which I'm a little bit disappointed at, and I know a lot of you listening will be disappointed at, but we can't change what the atmosphere has done to us this year. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.